Chapter 1011. It doesn't matter if I'm an evil cultivator or not, the important thing is that you, as the director of the Martial Arts Alliance, know that Xuan Yuanyan is an evil cultivator, but you are indifferent. I now suspect that those sect families in your Martial Arts Alliance must still practice evil arts, but as the high-ranking members of the Alliance, you chose to cover up. David looked at Guo Wei coldly and said. Guo Wei's eyes narrowed, and his eyes became more murderous. Boy, you know a bit more. While speaking, Guo Wei began to emit strange breaths, and there were also imprints on his chest. David frowned. He never imagined that Guo Wei, the director of the Alliance, had also practiced evil arts, so it seemed that the Martial Arts Alliance had already been soaked by evil practitioners. You know too much, you just have to die. Swish! Guo Wei's body suddenly disappeared, leaving an afterimage in the air at a very fast speed. Bang! Without waiting for any reaction from David, Guo Wei slapped it with a palm, instantly smashing the golden light that had just recovered on David's body. The indestructible golden body of bullshit is vulnerable in front of me. Guo Wei did not give David any chance to breathe. He punched David's chest again. Ding ding ding! David's body took a few steps back, and his chest sank even more. Facing Guo Wei, the peak of Wuzong, David's body was strong, but he still couldn't resist. Bang bang! With the constant blows, Guo Wei's body was like a shooting star, flickering and disappearing continuously, and every flickering would leave a heavy blow on David's body. David gritted his teeth and endured this ferocious blow, but Guo Wei's speed was too fast, and David couldn't catch Guo Wei's figure at all. 9 Shadow Clone. David knew that if this continued, he would be killed sooner or later, and suddenly his figure flashed, and one after another clone appeared. David's speed has also increased to the extreme, and shadow clones have begun to appear in all directions. As David's speed increased, Guo Wei's figure began to slowly appear in front of David. The 4 shadow avatars, which are David's body, attacked Guo Wei together. Humph, I'm not self-sufficient. Guo Wei snorted coldly, and then punched out, but this punch turned into countless fist shadows. These fist shadows hit those shadow clones, and the shadow clones were instantly shattered and disappeared without a trace. In the end, only David's body was left, and he punched Guo Wei. Under this punch, a black light suddenly erupted from Guo Wei's body, and the terrifying breath directly sent David to retreat. And Guo Wei's body was wrapped in black ink-like light, like wearing a layer of black armor. The black shone with a strange light under the sunlight. David, if I don't kill you today, in time, your kid will definitely become a problem for the Martial Dao Alliance. A cold light flashed in Guo Wei's eyes, and a black streamer hit David's chest fiercely. David's body flew out and fell heavily on the ground, the depression in his chest deepened a bit. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and David could no longer suppress the tumbling of his internal organs. Looking at David, who was seriously injured, Guo Wei walked over slowly, looked down at David on the ground and said, "It's over, everything is over." A dazzling black light condensed on Guo Wei's fist again. Stop! 3 auras rushed toward him, and when Guo Wei saw this, the black light on his body disappeared instantly. Seeing Sonia, Gu Linger and Zhao Wuji rushed over. Looking at David, who was seriously injured on the ground, Sonia and Gu Linger hurriedly rushed up. Director Guo, Mr. Shi said that you are not allowed to kill Mr. Chen, but you want to kill him. I have to report this matter to Mr. Shi. Zhao Waoqi glared at Guo Weidao. Chapter 1012. Guo Wei looked at Zhao Waoqi and Sonia, who were coming, and suddenly the corner of his mouth raised, who said, "I did something to David." I see. If we hadn't come here just now, you would have killed Mr. Chen. Zhao Wuji said loudly. You haven't seen anything, because dead people don't see things. After Guo Wei finished speaking, a terrifying aura directly wrapped Zhao Wuji and the others. He is going to kill people and silence them. Only when these people are dead will his secrets not be leaked. Seeing Guo Wei's intention to kill, Zhao Waoqi was startled. Director Guo, what do you want to do? I'm a member of the Dharma Protector Pavilion. If you kill me, you're going against the authorities. Zhao Waoqi wanted to use the official government to suppress Guo Wei, but it was obviously useless, because Guo Wei wanted to kill him. Zhao Waoqi, if I kill you now, who can prove that I killed you? No one can prove that, even if you are an official. What can the official do to me? Guo Wei smiled coldly. This time, Zhao Waoqi was completely panicked. Facing Guo Wei, who was at the peak of Wuzong's peak, they had no chance of winning. Now Guo Wei don't mention a finger, even if the aura on his body is strengthened a little, Zhao Wuji can't bear it anymore. The two girls Sonia and Gu Linger, although they have some strength, want to deal with a peak Wuzong. That is a fool's dream. David has been supported by Sonia and Gu Linger at this moment. He looked at Guo Wei, who was full of killing intent, and his expression became extremely solemn. Guo Wei, if you stop, I didn't see what happened today. David began to compromise. If it was just himself, David would still have the possibility of escaping, but now that Sonia and Gu Linger are both there, and Zhao Wuji, with Zhao Wuji's strength, he can't escape. For these people around him, David had to compromise. Ha ha ha, David, you're cowardly, but it's too late, you know too much, so you must die. After Guo Wei finished speaking, he punched it out, and the black light burst out, turning into a beast and rushing directly to David and the others. When David saw this, he gritted his teeth and urged the golden light on his body. He jumped up and met Guo Wei's punch. Bang! The huge collision directly caused David's body to fall heavily. A mouthful of blood spurted out, and David's body began to have cracks, and the golden light on his body began to dim again. However, David's desperate block made Sonia and the others not hurt. David! Sonia and Gu Linger supported David with distressed faces. Yes, you can still resist my blow and not die, but this punch, I want to see if you die. The black light on Guo Wei's body began to shine continuously, and it was no longer concealed. Seeing the black light on Guo Wei's body, Zhao Waoqi opened his mouth wide in shock. I stopped him, and you took the opportunity to run. David's eyes narrowed slightly. He knew that he was going to work hard today, otherwise Sonia and Gu Linger would have to explain it here. David, if we don't leave, we will die together. Gu Linger shed tears and shook her head. We're not necessarily going to die. Sonia's eyes suddenly turned cold, then she pulled out a dagger and slashed towards her arm. A wound appeared, and bright red blood flowed out. David, drink it. Sonia handed the wound to David. Looking at the scarlet wound on Sonia's fair arm, David couldn't bear it. David, if you don't drink, then we will all die. Sonia urged David. David gritted his teeth, put his mouth directly in front of him, and began to suck Sonia's blood. Chapter 1013. Guo Wei looked at the scene in front of him, and was immediately stunned. He couldn't understand what David and the others were doing when death was imminent. Soon, Sonia's blood entered David's body, and David's blood began to boil. Endless spiritual power was running around in David's body, and even the dragon crystal turned blood red at this time. David's whole body is filled with manic bloody aura. Slowly raising his head, David looked at Guo Wei. His eyes were scarlet, and the fighting spirit that erupted from his body directly suppressed Guo Wei's breath. Guo Wei was shocked and looked at David in shock. He didn't understand why David, who was obviously weak just now, suddenly changed his appearance after drinking Sonia's blood. The breath on his body is manic, and his strength has obviously increased a lot. If I were at the peak of Wuzong's realm, I would definitely kill you in one move. The golden light on David's body skyrocketed, as dazzling as the sun in that hot summer. Guo Wei's expression was calm, and he knew that what David said was the truth. Now that David is only a first-rank Wuzong, he can kill a 7th-rank Wuzong like Xuan Yuanyan, and he can also fight against his own peak Wuzong. If David really reaches the peak of Wuzong, it will be terrible. At that time, I am afraid that even half a step Wu Hao will not be David's opponent. To deal with David, Wu Hao must be dispatched. You will never have a chance to reach the peak of Wuzong, because today you will die. After Guo Wei finished speaking, black rays of light erupted from his body, and the rays of light from his whole body continued to converge towards the mark on Guo Wei's chest. This mark flickered at the beginning, and finally became extremely bright, and a huge energy spread out from the mark. Guo Wei, you actually practiced the demon seal. Zhao Waoqi looked at the mark on Guo Wei's chest and said in shock. David doesn't know what the demon seal is, but he can be sure that the demon seal must be very powerful. Guo Wei's body slowly floated in mid-air, and the mark on his chest began to swallow all the power around him. Even the sunlight in the sky was absorbed. Soon the dark clouds covered the sun, and the sky became dark. Feeling this coercion, Zhao Waoqi's body fell to the ground with a thud. The huge coercion made him unable to move at all. And Sonia and Gu Linger gritted their teeth, resisting the pressure. But soon, the pressure on Sonia and Gu Linger disappeared, and Zhao Waoqi also got up from the ground. I saw that David's body also slowly reached the air, and a golden light directly enveloped Sonia and the others, blocking the coercion. Sonia and the others looked up, as if there were two suns in the sky, one exuding golden light and the other exuding black light. Sonia and the others are fine with David protecting them, but Xian Yuanrong, who has been by his side, is unlucky. He feels the double pressure of David and Guo Wei. Even though Xian Yuanrong is in the realm of Wuzong, his body is directly crushed and turned into a corpse. Blood fog. At this time, David resisted the pressure of Guo Wei's body, and the concentration art in his body was running like crazy. David's breath became stronger and stronger, and golden brilliance flickered around David. Feeling the change in David's aura, Guo Wei frowned slightly. He knew that he couldn't drag it on, otherwise David's strength would really rise to a terrifying level. Go to H3LL. Guo Wei turned into a black lightning bolt and charged towards David with endless energy. David's expression was dignified, his muscles were violent, and every part of his body contained endless spiritual power. On the surface of his skin, the layers of spiritual power were like layers of transparent armor. Facing Guo Wei, David did not dare to simply use his physical body to resist. Chapter 1014. Rumbling. Finally, Guo Wei slammed into David's body, two rays of light scattered, and the dark clouds in the sky were washed away by this huge shock wave. The surrounding trees were uprooted one after another, and the entire area for thousands of meters became a mess. David's figure fell quickly, and finally hit the ground, smashing the ground into a deep pit. And Guo Wei was not much better, his body swayed, he finally fell to the ground, and took a few steps backwards. Guo Wei's face was pale, blood began to appear on the corners of his mouth, and the mark that flashed on Guo Wei's chest turned out to be cracked. Looking at David who was swaying and stood up again, Guo Wei had a headache. He felt that David was an unbeatable little guy. Seeing that Sonia handed the wound to David again and let David suck the blood, Guo Wei finally wanted to quit. He really couldn't understand what was different about Sonia's body, why David's strength suddenly increased after consuming her blood. Let's spare you not to die today, if you dare to talk nonsense in the future, you will die without a place to be buried. After Guo Wei finished speaking, he disappeared after a few flashes of his figure. After Guo Wei left, David's body collapsed. David! Sonia and Gu Linger hurriedly rushed up. Kyoto Budo Alliance. Guo Wei sat in the hall with a pale face, the blood in his body was tumbling, and the battle with David left Guo Wei seriously injured. Soon, Zhu Zishan walked in and frowned slightly when he saw Guo Wei like that. Guo Wei, what's going on? Zhu Zishan asked. I wish the alliance leader, David is too perverted. Cheng Zhisheng of Perak Gate and Xian Yuanyan of Swan Yuan's family have been killed by David, and there will be no more of these two families in Kyoto in the future. Guo Wei said solemnly. What the H3LL is going on? Didn't I send you over to take a look? You can't stop that, David. Zhu Zishan frowned deeper. Guo Wei shook his head and told Zhu Zishan what happened. When he heard that David had drained Suan Yuanyan's energy and that his strength would suddenly increase by sucking Sonia's blood, Zhu Zishan fell into deep thought. After a while, Zhu Zishan said slowly, could it be that David is also an evil cultivator? Can't he succeed in cultivating a practice similar to the star-absorbing Dafa? I was so suspicious too, but after he sucked the girl's blood, his strength suddenly increased. How can you explain it? Guo Wei didn't understand why David would increase his strength by sucking human blood. They have dealt with many evil cultivators, and they have never heard of any exercises that can suck human blood to increase their strength. This should have nothing to do with David, the problem should be that girl. Zhu Zishan's eyes flashed with a trace of light, and then he continued, David's destruction of Pilai Gate and Suan Yuan's family, you should suppress it first, don't publicize it, you just need to publicize it. David disobeyed the leadership during the trial and was severely injured by you, and other things are not allowed to be mentioned. Understood? Guo Wei nodded. Zhu Zishan waved his hand and sent Guo Wei away, but he went directly to the dungeon in the backyard. 3 days later, David slowly opened his eyes in Shadowless Villa. David, you're awake. Seeing that David was awake, Sonia and Gu Linger hurried up. David looked around. How long have I been in a coma? Where is this? Mr. Chen, you have been in a coma for 3 days, this is Shadowless Villa. Zhao Liguo stepped forward and said. David stood up suddenly, frowned and said, has anyone come to trouble you these 3 days? No, these 3 days have been quiet, and even the news that the Thunder Gate and Suan Yuan's family are nearly destroyed, many people still don't know it, and it hasn't spread, so Guo Wei just announced it on the martial arts forum because you didn't obey during the trial. Leader, he was severely injured and taught a lesson. Zhao Liguo said. Chapter 1015. David pondered for a moment. He knew that the matter of beheading Cheng Zhishang and Xian Yuanyan must have been suppressed by the Martial Arts Alliance. As for why the Martial Arts Alliance wanted to suppress this matter, it must be out of fear of making trouble. Big, their secrets cannot hide. Do you want to turn big things into small things? I just don't follow your wishes. Killing intent flashed in David's eyes. At this time, Zhao Waoqi came and saw that David was awake. He was very happy. Mr. Chen, you are awake, it's really good. I have already reported to Mr. Shi that Guo Wei practiced evil powers, and told Mr. Shi. Guo Wei is not the only one in this martial arts alliance who cultivates evil arts. What did Mr. Shi say? David asked. Zhao Waoqi looked lonely for a while. Mr. Shi doesn't seem to believe what I said at all. If it were me, I wouldn't believe it easily. After all, the Martial Arts Alliance is deeply rooted in Kyoto, and it also includes 80% of the sect family in the entire Kyoto martial arts world. Without definite evidence, how could Mr. Shi be possible? Investigate the Martial Arts Alliance with just one word of yours. David said slowly. Then, what should we do? Is it possible to let the Martial Dao Alliance run rampant, and there is no way to take him? Zhao Waoqi was angry. If you want to make them show their feet, you have to make them mess up. David looked out with deep eyes, and seemed to have an idea in his heart. Mr. Chen, what do you want to do? Now you have almost wiped out the Thunder Gate and Suan Yuan's family, and you have also formed a feud with the Martial Arts Alliance. The most important thing for you now is to leave the capital quickly, find a place to hide first, and wait until you are strong enough. It's time to come back. Zhao Waoqi persuaded David. Mr. Chen, Pavilion Master Zhao is right. You should leave the capital now. It's already a place of right and wrong. I don't know how many people want your life. Zhao Liguo also persuaded David. David smiled lightly, I will not be running away. This time, I will fight with the martial arts alliance in an open and honest manner. If I escape this time, everyone around me will suffer. David knew that even if he escaped, the people around him would suffer. Shadowless Villa is an example. The reason why Shadowless Villa was almost wiped out was because of myself. If David hadn't appeared in time, there would be no Shadowless Villa anymore. Shadowless Mountain Villa is the hall of His Highness Taipei, but because he was almost destroyed twice, David couldn't swallow it. David's words made Zhao Wuji and Zhao Liguo silent, because David was right. If David escaped now, the Shadowless Villa would definitely be destroyed, and the Bai family who followed David very close, I am afraid that it will also suffer a serious blow. David, what are you going to do next? Sonia looked at David and asked. Pavilion Zhao, please help me contact the media reporters in Kyoto, I want to announce something. David said to Zhao Waoqi. Mr. Chen, do you want to? Zhao Waoqi wanted to ask David what he wanted to announce, but he was interrupted by David waving his hand before he could say anything. Seeing that David didn't say anything, Zhao Waoqi didn't ask any more questions, nodded and left. Zhao Liguo. David looked at Zhao Liguo and shouted by his first name. Zhao Liguo was stunned for a moment, because David usually called him Zhao Zhuangzu, and he didn't understand what happened this time. Mr. Chen. Zhao Liguo hurried forward and bowed his head respectfully. You take the rest of the Shadowless Villa, let Sonia and Linger join you, and quickly integrate the forces of the Pilaman and Xuanyuan's family under your command. I want the entire Kyoto martial arts world to know that the Shadowless Villa is my power. I want to take root and sprout in the Kyoto martial arts world. David's obsidian-like eyes exuded a cold and fierce light, and he was going to work hard in Kyoto. Chapter 1016. As ordered. When Zhao Liguo heard this, he immediately roared loudly. Sonia and Gu Linger were very surprised. They didn't understand when the Shadowless Villa became David's power. Although they didn't understand, they didn't ask. As David's women, they would only support David unconditionally. With Sonia and Gu Linger following Zhao Liguo, David didn't have to worry about what the rest of the little scoundrels in the Pilaman and Xuanyuan's family would cause. After Zhao Liguo took the people away, David also got up and walked towards the Bai family. Since David intends to establish a foothold in Kyoto, he also needs to rely on the power of the Bai family. Although the Bai family does not have much influence in the martial arts world, the Bai family has many industries and is well known in the business circle of Kyoto. Kyoto White House. Bai Ziashan's expression was very solemn. In the hall of the Bai family's villa, many high-level Bai family members gathered together. Zhan Tang, how is the information I asked you to inquire about? Bai Ziashan asked Bai Zhan Tang. Grandpa, no one knows what Mr. Chen is like now, but according to the news released by the Martial Arts Alliance, Mr. Chen should have been seriously injured by Guo Wei, and it will be difficult for him to recover for a while. Bai Zhan Tang said with a low expression. Hey! Bai Ziashan sighed helplessly when he heard this. He put all the Bai family on David because he knew David's status as a cultivator, but now it seems that David's strength is still too weak and his growth time is too short. Patriarch, you should decide as soon as possible. It is estimated that Qin Xiaotian will come soon. A high-level executive stood up and said to Bai Ziashan. What is there to decide? Our Bai family has always followed the Qin family. They want to annex my Bai family's property. That's wishful thinking. It's a big deal to fight with them. Bai Zhan Tang gritted his teeth and said angrily. After the Martial Arts Alliance announced that David was seriously injured by Guo Wei, the Qin family began to trouble the Bai family and asked the Bai family to hand over all their property and get out of the capital within 3 days. Little young master, don't be angry. If it's just Qin Xiaotian, our Bai family is not afraid, and we can fight with them, but then Qin Xiaoxian, the second child of the Qin family, is back. Where is our Bai family an opponent? Just need one Qin Xiaoxian can destroy all of our Bai family. a high-level executive persuaded Bai Zhantang. Hearing this, Bai Zhantang stopped talking, because this is all true. Qin Xiaoxian is Wuzong, and if he wants to destroy their Bai family, it is just a matter of gestures. Just when everyone fell into silence, a burst of arrogant laughter suddenly came. Ha ha ha, 3 days have come, do you think the old thing, do you want to hand over the property obediently and get out of the capital, or do you want to keep the lives of all the people in your Bai family? Qin Xiaotian led someone into the hall of Bai's house with an arrogant face, and then someone moved a chair and sat directly in front of Bai Ziashan. Seeing that Qin Xiaotian was the only one who brought people here, Qin Xiaoxian did not follow, and Bai Ziashan's face became a little better. Qin Xiaotian, although the two of you and I have never been at odds, we haven't reached the point of slaughtering them. Is it too much for you to drive our Bai family out of the capital? If you do this, aren't you afraid that the martial arts alliance will punish your Qin family? Bai Ziashan asked Qin Xiaotian with a cold face. Ha ha ha, when Qin Xiaotian heard this, he laughed again. Old man, are you confused? If there is no instruction from above, would I do it? To tell you the truth, David offended the martial arts alliance. And your Bai family followed David's boy, so I came to take over your Bai family, which is also the inspiration of the martial arts alliance. You don't have to think about using the martial arts alliance to oppress me. Chapter 1017. Qin Xiaoshan's words made Bai Ziashan's face change, and the whole person was stupid. If this was instigated by the martial arts alliance, wouldn't their Bai family be finished, and there would be no hope at all? Qin Xiaotian, don't be alarmist, I don't believe your words, and our Bai family's property will never be handed over to you. Bai Zhantang said sharply. Just after Bai Zhantang finished speaking, he heard a loud bang outside, and a villa in the Bai family villa area collapsed unexpectedly. Immediately afterwards, Qin Xiaoxian walked into the hall slowly. Qin Xiaotian hurriedly got up and offered his seat to his second brother. If you don't pay, then everyone in your Bai family will end up like the villa just now. Qin Xiaoxian spoke slowly, but the cold and domineering aura on his body made Bai Zhantang's face turn pale, and he sat directly on the ground. A little grandmaster simply endured the aura that erupted from more than one Wuzong. Seeing this, Bai Ziashan's expression became extremely difficult to see. I hope you will give me some more time. Our Bai family's property is huge. Even if it is handed over to your Qin family now, you can't manage it at all. Bai Ziashan wants to delay some time, think of a way. Old man, you don't have to think about procrastinating, you just need to hand over all the property, and we will manage it by ourselves. Qin Xiaotian said, then looked in the direction of the top of the Bai family, and said to a middle-aged man wearing glasses and gentle, Manager Tian, can you manage the industry of the Bai family? I saw Manager Na Tian hurried forward a few steps, walked respectfully in front of Qin Xiaotian and said, Dong Qin, I know all the properties of the Bai family well, and of course I can manage them. I have a list of Bai family properties here, please take a look. Manager Na Tian handed a document into Qin Xiaoshan's hands. Qin Xiaotian didn't even look at it, but looked at Bai Ziashan with a proud face. Seeing this, Bai Ziashan trembled with anger, his face turned blue, and his whole body twitched. Grandfather! Seeing this, Bai Zhantang hurried forward and pinched Bai Ziashan with his hands. Slowly, Bai Ziashan came over, glared at Manager Tian and said, Manager Tian, my Bai family treats you badly, but you actually betrayed me. Manager Tian smiled lightly, Master, as the saying goes, those who know the current affairs are Junja. In this situation, what qualifications does the Bai family have to compete with the Qin family? In my opinion, you should hand over your property obediently, get out of Kyoto, and leave a note for yourself. Little life. You. Bai Xiu's blood spurted out. Grandpa, Grandpa, Bai Zhantang hurriedly helped Bai Ziashan to wipe. Do you think the same way as him? Bai Ziashan's hands trembled as he pointed at other high-level officials and asked. Those high-level officials looked at each other, and then they all slowly stepped forward and walked to Qin Ziaoshan's side. Seeing this scene, Bai Ziashan once again spurted out a mouthful of old blood. Ha ha ha, Qin Xiaotian laughed arrogantly, I'm immortal, see if you don't see it, this is to know the current affairs, you should also know the phase in the end, save us from doing it. Bai Ziashan's face was extremely ugly, his trembling body, he didn't know what to say. At this point, what else can he do other than hand over the Bai family's property? Zhan Tang, go get the seal. Bai Ziashan closed his eyes slowly, and seemed to have aged a lot for a moment. Grandpa, do we really want to hand over all the properties of the Bai family? Bai Zhantang gritted his teeth, he was very distressed, he was distressed by the Bai family's property, and he was also distressed by Bai Ziashan's body. Pay it, what can we do if we don't pay it? Bai Ziashan waved his hand. Bai Zhantang was also helpless, so he could only take out Bai Ziashan's seal. I said that if you want to cover the Bai family, you will definitely cover it. If you want to benefit from the Bai family, should you ask me? At this moment, David walked in slowly. Chapter 1018. Seeing David appear, Bai Ziashan and Bai Zhantang were overjoyed. Mr. Chen. Bai Ziashan stood up abruptly and shouted excitedly. David walked up to Bai Ziashan, asked Bai Ziashan to sit down, then turned to look at Qin Xiaotian and Qin Xiaoxian and said, with your little ability, do you want to annex the Bai family? Looking at David, Qin Xiaotian and Qin Xiaoxian's faces were very ugly. They didn't expect David to come, and looking at David, how could he be injured? David, we are just here to talk business normally. Qin Xiaoxian stood up from his chair. Although he is also a Wuzong, Qin Xiaoxian is very self-aware, and he knows that he is not David's opponent at all. When David was able to kill Ichiro Watanabe in an international competition, Qin Xiaoxian knew at that time that he was no longer David's opponent. Now that this period of time has passed, David's aura has obviously increased a lot, and Qin Xiaoxian is no longer an opponent. David, aren't you valued? Qin Xiaotian was puzzled and blurted out. Severely injured. David sneered, just relying on Guo Wei's goods, can you also seriously hurt me? David's eyes were full of disdain, but this sentence made the Qin brothers' hearts set off a storm. Guo Wei is the pinnacle of Wuzong, and with the touch of a finger, they can be wiped out. David doesn't even care about such a person. David, we're just here to talk about business. Since Patriarch Bai doesn't want to talk, we'll leave right away. Qin Xiaoxian said, winked at Angel Qin Xiao, and immediately wanted to take people away. Want to go? David's eyes narrowed slightly, then with a wave of his hand, the two doors closed directly. Qin Xiaoxian and Qin Xiaoshan's expressions instantly turned ugly, and they turned to look at David. David, we. Qin Xiaoxian wanted to say something, but was interrupted by David's wave. I don't care if you are here to talk business or not, I'm in a bad mood today, so the two of you must die. David said calmly. A great master, a Wuzong, in David's eyes, kill if he says. It's like pinching two ants to death. Qin Xiaoxian frowned slightly, David, don't deceive people too much, although your strength is stronger than me, but if I work hard, I can make blood flow here. Blood in a river. David's mouth was the same, you don't have that ability. After David finished speaking, the aura on his body suddenly erupted, and then this terrifying aura directly enveloped the Qin brothers. Feeling the terrifying breath on David's body, Qin Xiaotian fell to his knees with a thud, and cracks appeared on the ground under his knees. And Qin Xiaoxian, who is Wuzong, gritted his teeth and resisted this coercion. David looked at the two with a relaxed expression, his eyes full of disdain. Let me show you what a river of blood is. David's voice fell. Bang! Suddenly, Qin Xiaoxian only felt a bang in his ear, turned his head to look, and the whole person vomited directly. I saw Qin Xiaotian kneeling on the ground, but unfortunately his head was directly crushed by the huge coercion, and blood splattered all over the floor. Third brother! Qin Xiaoxian shouted with scarlet eyes. While the others were dumbfounded, David didn't move, but he directly blew Qin Xiaoshan's head, which was unbelievable to them. When Bai Xiaoshan saw this scene, he was excited and ecstatic. The stronger David was, the more beneficial it would be for their Bai family. It seems that he made the right bet by betting the Bai family on David. David, I fought with you. Qin Xiaoxian looked at Qin Xiaotian who had died tragically, his eyes were scarlet, and he roared and wanted to rush to David. Chapter 1019. Qin Xiaoxian's aura of martial arts began to erupt, and raging winds began to blow in the entire hall. Looking at Qin Xiaoxian's crazy appearance, David pressed his palm down, and a golden light visible to the naked eye directly imprisoned Qin Xiaoxian, and the breath of Qin Xiaoxian disappeared instantly without a trace. Qin Xiaoxian's body was tightly imprisoned by this golden light, and huge pressure was constantly coming from all around him. It's like two high-speed cars with Qin Xiaoxian in the middle. Qin Xiaoxian gritted his teeth, desperately resisting this pressure. Soon, Qin Xiaoxian's 7 orifices began to bleed, and his body was twisted and deformed. Bang! Another loud noise, as if a balloon had been punctured. Qin Xiaoxian's whole body was directly crushed by the huge pressure, and the bloody aura instantly spread out. Those Qin family members who saw this scene ran away in fright. In the end, several senior Bai family members were left to stare at the scene in front of them in shock. Old Bai, the brothers of the Qin family are dead. I hope you can use the fastest speed to annex the Qin family. David looked at Bai Xiaoshan Road. Bai Xiaoshan was still in shock. When he heard David say this, he nodded again and again, all right, all right. In the future, your Bai family will be my spokesperson in the Kyoto business circle. I will announce it to the media later. If Bai Lao has doubts, he can raise it now. If I announce it, the Bai family will probably be prepared to suffer multiple blows. David followed Bai Xiaoshan directly. Since David intends to follow the martial arts alliance to the end, he has to explain the words in advance. He does not want to be at a critical juncture, and there will be a scene of betrayal and separation like today. No, it's my Bai family's honor to be able to follow Mr. Chen's command, and it's a 10,000-year blessing from my Bai family. Bai Xiaoshan didn't hesitate at all. Because he has witnessed David's growth with his own eyes, in just a few months, David has developed from an unknown junior to a figure that makes the Kyoto Martial Arts Alliance a headache. David nodded with satisfaction, then turned his head to glance at Manager Tian's high-level executives, and with just this look, they were so frightened that they fell to the ground with a thud. Master, I was wrong, I was wrong, I was forced to do nothing by that Qin Xiaotian, please forgive me. Manager Tian knelt on the ground and cried to Bai Xiaoshan. Bai Xiaoshan looked coldly at the several high-level executives kneeling on the ground, his eyes were full of killing intent, he was the one who betrayed him the most. Mr. Chen, how do you deal with these people? Bai Xiaoshan asked David. Now that the Bai family has been brought under David's command, of course some things must be heard by David. You can do it yourself. David said lightly. Bai Xiaoshan looked at Manager Tian, who was kneeling on the ground, his eyes narrowed slightly. Someone, drag this traitor out to me, beat him to death, others will confiscate all the family property, get out of the Bai family. Although Bai Xiaoshan is old, he is ruthless in his work. However, in charge of such a large family, one must be cruel, as the so-called kindness does not control the army and righteousness does not control the wealth. After dealing with several senior Bai family members, David took out a small porcelain bottle from his arms. Zhan Tang, there are several body training pills here. You need to use the pills to practice more and improve your strength as soon as possible. David knew that by himself, he couldn't always protect the safety of the Bai family. He had to find a way to improve the strength of the Bai family. Bai Zhantang took the body training pill excitedly, and thanked him repeatedly, "Thank you, Mr. Chen, thank you, Mr. Chen. In the future, I will ask Ye Shengu to regularly deliver medicinal pills to the Bai family. Elder Bai will select a few talented, smart, and reliable people to improve their strength as soon as possible. It won't be long before we have a bloody battle." David's eyes flashed with fierceness. David knew that if he wanted to rescue his mother as soon as possible, it would take too long to rely on his own strength, and he didn't want to wait too long. He wants to integrate his forces as much as possible, and then fight to the death with the Long family. It is a pity that there are 13 entrances in the Dragon Sect, and now only 3 of them are found. David doesn't know where the other entrances are. Chapter 1020 Kyoto Budo Alliance. After a day of training, Guo Wei's injury has improved a lot, not to mention how ugly Guo Wei's face is at this moment. Also looking ugly is Long Jingguo, because on this day, David let Wuying Mountain Villa annex all the forces of Pilaman and Xuan Yuan's family, and Bai's family also took the opportunity to annex Qin's family. Shadowless Villa and the Bai family both knew that it was David's influence, so David's influence in Kyoto suddenly expanded a lot. Just when Guo Wei and Long Jingguo were silent, Zhu Zishan suddenly walked in. The ally. Guo Wei got up and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Zhu Zishan's wave. "I already know, there are just a few small sect families, and since David likes it, let him take it." He naively thought that with this power, he would be able to gain a firm foothold in Kyoto, which is simply whimsical. Zhu Zishan smiled disdainfully, and then said, "Guo Wei, do you remember the girl you told me about?" "Remember?" Guo Wei nodded. "Bring someone to arrest me right now, but remember, you must not hurt her, let alone kill her, or none of you will want to live," Zhu Zishan said with a serious face. Looking at Zhu Zishan's appearance, Guo Wei knew that Sonia was very important to the martial arts alliance. It should be what Zhu Zishan found out. "I know." Guo Wei nodded, and then found a few 8th-rank Wuzong masters in the alliance, and went to catch Sonia together. Guo Wei walked back, and Zhu Zishan looked at Long Jingguo, "Long Patriarch, what's the matter with you? I wish the alliance leader, my son was beaten like that by David, our Long family can't swallow this breath, so I want to discuss with the alliance leader, let my Long family come forward and teach David a good lesson." Long Jingguo said to Zhu Zishan. Long Jingguo is not for revenge, he is afraid that after the martial arts alliance catches David, he will torture David to death, then Long Jingguo will no longer have the power to threaten Long Ruotong, and the secret he wants to know will never be forgotten. Won't know. That's why he found Zhu Zishan, and wanted to take the matter of dealing with David to the Long family. As long as he catches David, he doesn't believe that Long Ruotong will not give in. "Patriarch Long, it stands to reason that you have spoken. I want to give this face, but Mr. Shi has already issued 3 documents. David can't move for the time being, but he won't be able to jump around for long," Zhu Zishan said with a troubled face. Hearing that Mr. Shi was mentioned by Zhu Zishan, Long Jingguo's brows furrowed slightly, and finally he could only nod helplessly, "Then we can only let that David jump around for 2 days, but my son was beaten like that. I can't take my breath. Patriarch Long, if you can't take this breath, I have a solution." Zhu Zishan's eyes lit up, and then he whispered a few words in Long Jingguo's ear. After Long Jingguo heard it, he was slightly taken aback. "I wish the alliance leader, I'm afraid that Xiao is not that David's opponent, won't it be shameful at that time?" "Don't worry, although David's talent is good, his strength is not higher than that of Long Xiao, not to mention that I know that your Long family still has a divine weapon. Would you dare to kill your kid?" Zhu Zishan smiled lightly. "That's true." Long Jingguo nodded, "I'll go back and prepare for the battle on the forum." Zhu Zishan patted Long Jingguo on the shoulder, "Don't worry, when the time comes, I will give Long Xiao a big gift." "Thank you, Confederate Lord. Long Jingguo said happily. After Long Jingguo left, Zhu Zishan slowly walked up to the highest tower of the Martial Arts Alliance. From here, you could see the entire prosperous Kyoto. If that girl is really a spirit body, in time, my divine power will be perfected. A light flashed in Zhu Zishan's eyes.